Hello everyone, this is Mr. Hoeksprong, and we are about to start our unit on Rome. Now this is one of our longest units of the year because the Roman Empire was a huge part of history. The accomplishments they made were very impressive. They built upon many of the things that the other civilizations we've talked about so far this year had accomplished. They, accomplished some similar things and carried on even past them. Now when we look at the cover sheet of our notes packet, you'll see the map of where in the world are we. If you look at this side right here, this is Greece, where we just finished studying, and this area right here is where Rome begins. Now, you geography nerds out there might have recognized that this boot-shaped place is Rome. Now, when you look at Rome, you see it is a small city right here, and it's in this area called Latium. Well, Latium was the kingdom where Rome began. Latium is the word that is the root for Latins. So a lot of times you hear the first Romans referred to as Latins. And we think of the language that came out of Rome as being Latin as well. Now you'll notice Rome, quite small to start with. Now they got started and eventually would go on to take over just about every area surrounding the Mediterranean. Some of the neighboring areas had people in it that influenced the Romans as they got started. They taught the Romans a lot. One of the signature features of the Roman civilization is they learned from people. If they were in contact with the people and those people had a good idea, the Romans adopted it and used it. If the Romans conquered someone and those people they conquered had some good ideas that worked better than the Rome's ideas, they used the new ideas. So that was one of the strengths they had. Now, as we look to the right, you'll see two of the vocab words that are going to pop up is the word republic and the word legion. We'll get to those later in our notes. If we look down at the timeline, you are going to see that this is a much more recent part of history than the other places we've talked about so far. Mesopotamia and Egypt took place a couple thousand years before Rome really got started. Greece also got started well before Rome did. However, when Rome got rolling, they would go on and very quickly take over many of these other countries that we've learned about so far. So that's the timeline there. So as we go to our first section of notes, they go along with pages 306 and 307 in our textbook. Funny story. The first time I recorded this video, I recorded it and no audio was captured. So I was just recording a video of me taking notes. Now, I'm not going to take those notes again, but I will give you time to copy them down and I will talk about them like I did before. Hopefully, I'll be able to say all the same hilarious jokes that I said in the first video that did not get recorded. Now, when you look at this section of Rome, you're seeing a little blue line there. That is showing the Tiber River, where Rome was settled on. Now, one of the main parts of Rome, one of the main reasons Rome settled where it was because it was a great location for trade. A lot of times you'll hear realtors and people who start businesses talking about location, location, location. Well, Rome had a great location. They were very centrally located. They were near the Mediterranean Sea, so they were able to travel very far. They were able to trade with many peoples, and they were kind of in the middle of this whole Mediterranean area, so all these other countries would stop there. Now, it was also a good place for farming. The lands surrounding Rome were very rich with soil, and farming was very successful. As we learned in our other civilization studies, farming plays a big role in how well a civilization does, because farming first lets you feed your people and then it lets you develop an economy, because if you have extra food you can sell it, and once you start selling things you have money to spend on different things and people can do different jobs, so it really causes your economy to grow. Couple things. You'll notice this word geography up there has been misspelled. That was a test. If you didn't find that yet, I'm sorry. You failed. It is not because I mistyped it. You'll also notice the page numbers do not match up with the online textbook. If you're looking up the online textbook, which you should, you need to go to our Google Classroom page. If you go to the Classwork tab, scroll all the way to the bottom, there were two links that can help you get into the textbook. The first link shows you all the different logins and passwords that we created at the beginning of the year. Now, if you've joined our class since then, your name is not on that list. However, if you go to the second link that allows you to sign into the online textbook, and this works for anybody, you will see there's a login, a generic login you can use to sign in. The login is actually capital P, period, Hochsprung, period, number 10, all in caps. And the password for everyone is capital H, Hochsprung 1. So that'll get you in the textbook. Now, if you look up Chapter 11, Lesson 1, that'll take you to this section of the textbook. So you should really read that section. You'll notice the headings I have coincide with the questions that you'll see in the textbook. So the first section's on 306 to 307. We'll cover this stuff right here. Now, we just talked about what made Rome a great place for a civilization to start. There were two geographic features. See, I know how to spell geography and geographic. These features that helped Rome out quite a bit. The first is that Rome is on the Tiber River. As we learned with all of our river civilizations, rivers are great for civilization. They provide water, they provide transportation, they allow for farming. Now, this river is not as big as the Nile or the Tigris or Euphrates rivers we've talked about so far, but it is a pretty good sized river. Now, one of the things that's very helpful about it is Rome is located about 15 miles inland. That means away from the coast. So you're not going to have pirates sail right up and ambush Rome and you know, take stuff from them or attack them. They would actually have to sail about 15 miles up the river, and that would allow Rome a chance to see their enemies coming and be able to prepare for it. Now, the other thing that Rome had going for it is Rome is built upon 7 hills. Now, all these 7 hills have names. We don't need to know them. If you ever happen to go to Rome or look up a Rome map, you'll notice that the whole city of Rome is built upon these hills. Now, the way it started out, though, was Rome built their civilization at the top of these hills. Now, if you remember, we've talked in the past about how hills are good for defense. Hills allow you to be upward of your attackers. On the examples we talked about, if you're playing King of the Hill with your friends, once you're at the top of the hill, you would have an advantage because anyone attacking you has to come up that hill. So they're going to tire themselves out. They're also not going to have the advantage of the high ground, which we all know Obi-Wan Kenobi proved to be very important when dealing with that young upstart Anakin Skywalker. So the high ground is pretty important, and it played a big role in how Rome got started. Now, this is the first section of our Rome studies. We'll be coming back to talk about what's on page 307 and 308 and talk about the origins of Rome, how it got started. There's some crazy stories there, so you definitely don't want to miss that. All right, I'll talk to you later.